on 350 subs.
Not PTR.
No, I imagine.
I imagine.
That'll be something.
It would be.
Isn't it nearly on 100?
Well, PTR?
It's on
It's
71.
on 71, and it has been for a while.
We've gained three subs this year, I believe.
Yeah. Anyway, hello, welcome to PTR. I'm Oliver, and I'm joined by Niall and Lewis.
Hello.
Today we are reviewing Death Stranding 2 on the beach. A little bit about the game first of all. It was developed by Kojima Productions, published by Sony. It was released exclusively for the PS5, June 26, 2025. It is classed as an action-adventure game, although I believe it's, what does Kojima call it? A Strand type game.
A Strand type beat.
Game.
A Strand type beat. So shall we do some opening statements, and shall we start with the person to finish it last, which is Niall?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to guess that it was who it was made by, given the credits. I don't think.
You don't reckon,
No. The joke is like it's said like 5 times his name.
Yeah.
Hideo. Yeah. So I was thinking about this. I'll push into sort of for us to record this because it's an interesting experience for me playing this game. When Death Stranding 1 came out, it was just on the cusp of me properly playing games to complete it. I think I started in like August of 2019 with BioShock, and Death Stranding came out like late November 2019, and I got it day one. I got the sleeve for it with the golden mask, which is pretty cool. Still got that, and I loved the game when I first played it. The first game, Death Stranding 1.
Yeah.
And then I replayed it this year, and I fully believe it is one of the greatest games of all time, nearly perfect.
Damn.
I loved everything about it, including the gameplay. The gameplay was one of the highlights for me, personally. So, with Death Stranding 2, I have never been more disappointed in a game.
Ooh.
Like, I'm not... So, just straight off the bat, I gave it a 7 out of 10. So that frames everything. It is still a good game, but I've never been more disappointed in a sequel. And the reason why I said that stuff at the start before is because up until this point, apart from Spider-Man 2, which I was also disappointed in, just not to the same extent, I hadn't played a game on launch and then waited for a sequel for a long time and then played that sequel until this game. So I'd never had that. Like if I played like a God of War Ragnarok, for example, I played God of War maybe like a year before God of War Ragnarok. So I weren't that like big wait and that big anticipation. But with Death Stranding 2, I've been waiting for like 6 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, thank you, Lewis. There was 2 big reasons why I was disappointed. So there was 3, but that's changed since thinking back on the game. It's the pacing and character development and the character relationships with Sam. That's one of the biggest ones. But then the second one, it has to be the gameplay. I genuinely think the gameplay has been ruined in the sequel. In terms for me personally, because it's not what I played Death Stranding for. But I'll get into all of that in more detail later.
Cracking.
So, do you want to juxtapose that with Lewis's?
7 out of 10. I will juxtapose it. Thank you, Big Lou.
Hello. Yeah, I had a different experience with Death Stranding 1, in that I only played it 3 months ago. Now, 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
I'd waited years and years to play it just because. Sorry, big stretch. Yeah, I'd waited years
Actual
and years.
cats.
Like a guy.
He's currently like crawling around his keyboard right now before he settles down.
I've waited years and years to play the game because I'd gotten it into my head and I did the bad thing, which I usually don't do that much anymore. I tend to try and make my own opinions on things, but I did the thing where I told myself, I listened to all of the negative things that were said about the game originally, and I put into my own head that the game must be bad, and I believed it to be bad. Without actually playing it. Like, I was very much someone to just call it a walking simulator. despite never actually playing it myself and just sort of latch onto those opinions. I played it for myself the first time a couple months ago. It did take a lot from me to commit to it, I will admit. Like initially when I did play the first game, I wasn't enjoying it, so it did take me a while to get into it, but eventually I did. I absolutely loved it. I'd regretted not playing it all these years. This time around, Death Stranding 2, I was incredibly excited for the release. And just coming off the back of playing the first one, I'm very well versed of how the game plays and what it does. And overall, I think Death Stranding 2 is just as good of an experience, if not better, in quite a lot of ways. There's quite a lot of things that I think the first game does better, but the game in no way, shape, or form is worse. It's just more. Not having played God of War Ragnarok or God of War, the way everyone described God of War Ragnarok was just more God of War. And I think this is very much the same thing. It's just more Death Stranding. Mechanically and for the most part, I think 98% of the things about this game are better than the first game. Kojima has improved upon it just sort of in every regard, really. I think he's really understood and mastered whatever that engine is, whatever the engine that he's made for that game. I think he's truly mastered it, and I think he truly understands it, and I think he's capable of doing. But Death Stranding 2 is truly a showcase of what he can do with that engine.
Decima engine.
Yeah, and it's very, very, very impressive stuff. But there's no way for me I could say it's worse than the first game. It's just as good at the minimum. And for the most part, I think it does most of the things just better. But there are some things that I do think, in general, are done a bit more, just a bit more better in the first game. But I think it's due to the fact that it was the first game in the series and sort of the first game of its kind. And I think that it has a lot to do with that over necessarily what was done in the second game. But yeah, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
It's going to be interesting, this one, because I'm pretty much right smack bang in the middle of you two. I'm not quite as critical as Niall, but I don't think the sun shines out of his ass quite as much as Lewis does. So it's an excellent continuation of the first game. I think the story was really, really, really good. As good as the first game, if not better. Visually fantastic. Technically, probably one of the best games that's ever been made from a purely technical standpoint. But do you remember the interview a while back with Kojima where he was worried because the playtesters all loved it?
Yeah.
That, I think, was a valid concern. It was a very, very valid concern. Again, I use this quote a lot, and it's a quote from Niall, and I use it a lot because it's the best possible way to describe Death Stranding 1, is that it took a lot from you, but it rewarded you. After it did that. The issue is with this game, it still rewards you, but it doesn't take anything from you. It doesn't. It's not difficult in any way. There's no. It doesn't feel like a journey. It doesn't feel like an adventure like the first one did. And for that reason, it's a lot less memorable. I can think of maybe one moment from the actual gameplay that I remember that sticks out, because that moment is where my car blew up. You know what I mean? That was the hardest part of the game. That's the only bit that I remember. I don't remember any of the good parts. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Okay. But it's a very, very, very good game. It's definitely a contender for Game of the Year, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's quite as good as the first one. I gave the first one a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Right. So I'll start getting into one of my biggest issues with the game.
I assume we're all going to share this issue, I think.
Vehicles.
Yeah.
It is entirely too easy to get around in a vehicle in this game, which is great. This is why all the playtesters will have loved it, because there's nothing like in the first game. Those rocks everywhere. It was so hard to get from A to B, even in a little trike, until the second half of the game when all the roads are built and all that kind of stuff. That's the whole point of the Strand type game, is the fact that you come back to these areas you've already been in later, and someone's built something to make your life easier. The thing is that your life's easy in the first place now. You can just get to 90% of the game I spent in a vehicle. At least 90%. There's very few orders that could not be achieved in an off-roader, and that includes the issues in the Snowy Mountains, even those ones.
Well, that's the thing. Like there were many orders, and this is the case for the whole game and the landscape. The orders and the landscape were all built for vehicles. There
Yeah.
were many orders which you could not complete without the vehicle or the monorail. And like I remember a distinct point towards the end of the game. I was mapping my way out to get back to the Quake Gate to get back to Mexico, and I saw a little bit on the map that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to get out my car there to go up that path. It look really thin, but like, no, it is the perfect width for a truck,
Yep.
and that's all over the game. The issue for me is that it reverses how it was in the first game, where you spend 95% of the time just like it conditions you to be like relatively content with the terrain, like dealing with the fact that you can't use the vehicle, you have to go over these rocks, you're tripping up all the time, you have to find your way up a mountain, you have to actively use the map to pinpoint the exact path you need to take, otherwise it's going to be harder. And then the moments where you get to run downhill or you get to use a vehicle on a road or just a bit of terrain which is relatively level, it feels so good.
Yeah.
Whilst whenever that wasn't the brief times that wasn't the case, all I felt was frustration and like anger. I'm like, oh, like, this is just like a pain in the ass now because I can't do the stuff I've been doing almost all of the game.
I've talked a few times about where the first game clicked for me, and it was on the way back to the when you're going all the way back to the beginning kind of stuff, and that's when it clicked. And it's like, because the idea of the whole strand type thing before that, it was kind of a joke to me. I was like, that doesn't excite me in any way. But just the fact that it took so much less time to get back to the beginning than it did to go to where you were going in the first place, it felt like an actual revolution. You know what I mean? It's like everyone's actually helping each other here. But I didn't feel that moment at all in 2.
I don't know. I understand what I do. One thing I do think is done. I don't know if it's done worse, but it's made a lot easier in this game. Is it felt like structures in general from the community were presented to you a lot more often, and it made things too easier in the sense that there was always something ready to help you get to where you needed to go, or there'd be a road in place or a slingshot in place just a bit too much compared to Death Stranding 1, at least for me. In the first game, it felt like a lot of the time I either had to commit by myself to doing whatever it is I needed to do, and I would luckily come across something that may or may not be helpful. And the times where it was helpful, I felt really relieved and thankful for it. But in the second one, it felt like stuff was just constantly there all the time. It never felt like a scenario where I was itching, where I was itching to find a resource or itching to find um like a road or a bridge that someone had built. It felt like they were constantly accessible. So I felt like the spawn rate for that sort of stuff was a bit high, because I felt like it made the world that was meant to be a bit desolate and occasionally feel like, oh my god, you've saved my life. It went from feeling like that to sort of like too established, I guess. Like it didn't feel like a country that needed saving or needed help really with building its infrastructure. It felt like the infrastructure was sort of already there for me.
I think that would have been a bigger issue for you than me on Nile as well, because I am assuming here, I don't know for sure, but I assume the more structures come in, the higher your grade for building structures is.
I believe so.
Yeah, so you will have seen a lot more than me on Nile with, but obviously that me and Nile, I can't really speak for now, but I basically didn't build anything. I built the absolute bare minimum because I didn't need to build it.
Well, that's the thing in this. So I did build a lot, but 95. I mean, this kind of goes into one of the issues with the game as well compared to the first game for me. I built all of the roads in the game this time around, which I thought was really fun. I haven't got an issue with the materials for roads being more accessible, because in the first game it was basically non-existent, like getting any of the materials for it, to the point where it was frustrating almost. I didn't mind in the slightest that they made getting materials a lot more easier in this game from the mines and stuff. They still had its own resource that you had to get. It wasn't just as simple as being able to spawn in as much as you want whenever you want. You still had to go out your way to get the materials to create more of these materials. But road was 95% of anything I constructed in that game, and I'm talking not just like not just like stuff outside of the facilities, but even stuff regarding Sam and the weapons and items that he would craft for himself. I barely crafted anything in this game purely because I did not need it. And when I say did not need it, I mean when I said did not need it, I meant really you don't need it. Like by the end of the game, and I showed you this when I showed you my stats, I found out that I didn't go through one singular pair of boots. Admittedly, it was because I was obviously switching them out before they broke, but even playing the game, I visually remember probably only going through about 5 pairs or so in total. Like you really don't need to craft much, and it's mainly due to the fact that you're constantly, if you're playing the game like this, you could argue that you could just not use them. But I was in a vehicle, so I didn't need to bring any. I didn't need to bring many weapons really, because my car had a gun on it. I didn't have to bring any boots really, because I was always in a car, and the small amount of time that I had to walk didn't really affect my boots. Blood bags and all that stuff, I guess if you really needed them for certain like combat scenarios, like yeah, okay, stuff like that. But like in general, I just didn't craft much. I didn't use any of the smoke grenades. I didn't use any of the. I didn't make any slingshots. I didn't do any of that sort of stuff. It was just unnecessary. And compared to the first game, that was like one of the biggest. It was one of the biggest differences to me in terms of, I guess, enjoyment. I didn't necessarily hate the way the game progressed. I liked that I could build roads. I liked that I could use the roads that I built this time. That was a very different experience for me because I didn't really get to do that in the first game. So I actually really, I did enjoy it in this game. I didn't necessarily have a problem with the fact that you could build so many roads and that you were constantly in a car, but I could understand compared to the first game why that would be frustrating to people. But I think it's also different just because, and it's at least the way I look at it, the terrain in this game just isn't the same as the first game, and I don't think that's a problem. It was a lot more hilly and rocky in the first game, which made obviously traversal a lot more difficult, and it's what made it frustrating in the first place. The terrain that they built for Australia just isn't remotely similar in landscape to the first game, so I wasn't really comparing it to the first games in terms of this is not as frustrating. It's obviously not as frustrating because it's just not as hilly, it's not as mountainous, it's not as rocky. So I didn't overly compare the two like that because to me, I just perceived it as a different terrain and was just sort of like, this is just easier to traverse because it's a different country and it's just the way it is. Like I wasn't necessarily thinking it from a challenge standpoint. I was just sort of like, this is a different country, this is a different place. It's just a bit easier to get around here, and I don't necessarily mind that.
This is why this is why I've not given it like any less than a 9. You know what I mean? That 1 point from between a 10 and 9 is just comparing it to the first game. It's still fun. It's still really fun. Like and again, like we complain about the vehicles, but the vehicles themselves were fun. You had that,
and they control a million times better.
Yeah, control a million times better. They had sticky cannons, so you're always picking up resources and stuff like that. Like you said, you never have to build anything. A big part of that would have been, I imagine, because you are constantly picking shit up. So if you ever need something, it's usually in your van already.
I'd pick up random shit all the time.
Also, the coffin board as well needs a special mention because that is really fun. I didn't really start using it until the end of the game. I love that thing. It's amazing. But yeah, so the consequence of the vehicles again is because the BTs, which was the main enemy from the first game, are pretty much not a threat at all.
Yeah,
no,
you can drive through those areas. Like almost all of them. Sometimes a giant BT will attack, but again, 9 times out of 10, you can just outrun them. You can just slowly leave the area. You might sink your vehicle sometimes, but again, they're not.
That was the difference in the first game as well. I remember in the first game when I tried to plow my way through the BT areas with cars and with trikes, and it just wasn't possible. The moment you entered a BT area, you would get slimed instantly, and your vehicle would just get restrained. In the second game, I only had one encounter or two encounters where my vehicle got restrained and I had to get out. But even then, the combat, because it presents you so many more options, and I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing. The BT combat in general this time around is infinitely easier.
Yep.
But it's because of all of the extra stuff that it offers to you in terms of combat. I think the combat is significantly improved compared to the first
Oh,
game, whether it comes to the gunplay or just the mechanics that he added in general to actually combat these BTs. It's so much better. But because of that, it's removed a lot of the pressure and a lot of the intensity of the BT encounters in the first game. And I can obviously understand why people wouldn't necessarily like that, because I think that was probably one of the big, not selling points per se, but just one of the big things in the first game that made them feel like the game was something special, like something that you don't really get in other games. That fear, that pressure that you're going to this next area, you're going to encounter BTs, you're going to have to find a way to deal with it. In this game, I never really felt like that. The moment I went into a BT infested area, I wasn't really worried because my options were I'm just going to drive really fast in a direction, or I'm just going to get out the car and summon like a kaiju and just throw it on the floor and it'll just eat everything for me. Like it was a very different perspective in terms of, sorry, all right, not even perspective, but just like in a different emotional state compared to the first game. But I also kind of, at least for me, I'm sort of like Sam has grown as a porter and he's just better at dealing with these situations. So I don't necessarily know if it would have made sense for him to have been struggling as much as he did in the first game anyway. So
it's easily justified. It is easily justified. And like you said, the combat being better, that is not one of the points that is bringing it down for me. That is points that are bringing it up. The combat being better was a very, very necessary change that needs to happen, because the combat in the first one was dog shit. It was the worst part about the game by far.
I don't think the combat's bad or anything. Like I said, I think it's better. It's just, I know it's one of those things. By improving it does affect the frustrations of the first game.
Yeah,
which is a good thing and a bad thing, obviously. Like it's way better that the combat's nicer and just like infinitely more enjoyable, but it does affect how, because a lot of how difficult the first game is doesn't necessarily come from design. It comes from the combat was done a bit poorly. It just wasn't very well fleshed out. It was a bit.
The stuff that the first game takes away from you, that I don't include combat in that. That's just frustration. It was like when you're stumbling and stuff over terrain. That's like that's intentional difficulty that you have you have the power to solve for yourself. You know what I mean? But my only issue with combat being easier in this game is that it's a shame because of the BTs, because there's really cool designs for the giant BTs now. I'm not a massive fan of the way they changed the BT, like the actual like low level BTs themselves. The glowing eyes, it doesn't do it for me. It makes them less creepy in my opinion. But the giant BTs and stuff like that, it just feels like a waste of design. It's the fact that I'm just not going to see that many of them. Because they're so easily avoidable. I'm not going to just stop to fight them for no reason. If I can avoid them, I will avoid them, because man's got a job to do. You know, I've got to get my parcels where they got to be.
It's I can understand people's frustration with that, because I've read a lot of things online about it, and I know it's like a point of contention for why people like the first game. But yeah, I think a lot of it just comes from the fact that improving upon the game does have to affect how the first game presented itself, I guess.
Yeah, but it's good that they improved it. It's good they improved the combat, because there's a lot more combat missions this time around as well, using the stick rather than the rope, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah. Now combat.
I think it was fine. Honestly,
just fine.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. If I didn't have to engage, I wouldn't engage. Because that's the thing. The AI was shit, so you could just run in, grab the thing, and get out, like without even taking that much damage.
So I never even tried doing that with the human enemies.
Yeah, no, like the only time where they get you is if they threw a grenade, and that would kick you out of your truck. Because you're for some reason not protected on the truck. I don't know why they're designed like that. You're just like hanging out, dangling your little legs.
That is funny.
It's like a baby seat, isn't it?
You can buy an upgrade later on that does give you a cage for the front of your truck. But yeah, I always thought that was funny as well.
Yeah, so like if there was something which I had to get from a locker, I'd just put my truck in front of the enemies which were shooting at me, get the stuff in the locker, get in, get out. Or if there was if there was something I had to get from another truck, I'd just get out and then access the cargo management menu, which paused it and switched over the cargo from one truck to another and got out. The only time where I properly engaged in combat was during the Neil stuff because you had to.
You had to. Yeah. But during those points, you will have noticed that it is a lot better than the last game. Just
Yeah,
the gunplay in general.
Yeah, one thing which I really liked was your speed was different to the time dilation whenever you got a kill. So your bullets were slower, but not as slow as the environment. So you could chain slow-mo kills and just stay in slow-mo because you could kill someone else before the slow-mo ended, which I thought was quite cool.
Yeah. Right, grand. Right, so I do want to get onto the story at one point, but obviously we're going to be talking quite large spoilers. Does anyone want to talk about anything more about the gameplay before we move on to that? Or the graphics or anything. Just
So
anything with the story.
It's story related, but I'm not going to mention any story stuff. Like story adjacent, should I say? Is that something which people are praising, which I actively don't like, is the pacing of the cutscenes and how that interjects in with story. I very much preferred in Death Stranding 1, essentially getting a 2-hour movie prologue, then being left alone for hours, and then getting little updates. And it tied all into what we're going to talk about with the characters, where you get essentially a 3-act structure of cutscenes for characters interspliced with like 2 missions in the middle of those 3 acts, which would tie the whole story together. I hated every single time doing a 5-minute walk and Fragile saying, "Oh, you must be tired, Sam. Come back and we'll tie you some 2 minutes of more story." Like, I understand why people liked it better for the pacing because they didn't want to sit for 2 hours for a movie, but at the same time, it was just I just wanted, like, the one thing which I really liked about Death Stranding 1, I talked about it on the PTR show, was that it was a very good game just to get into the flow state of just walking about and just enjoying it. And whenever banger came on, you'd listen to that, and it was just great. But with this one, it felt like my flow state was constantly getting interrupted with stuff that I weren't bothered about. If Tarman says, "Hey, it's Tarman," any more times, considering he's the only one with a thick Australian accent on the ship, then I'm gonna lose my mind. They did it like 50,000 more times.
Especially towards the end, he was the most annoying character. He would
Yeah,
constantly
for sure. The president saying, "Hey, it's the president," as you can see him stood right in front of you. We're on a private line. Oh, no way! There's a fucking private line.
That was so annoying. Yeah, towards the end where he kept doing that, that was frustrating. But I liked it whenever Tarman would tell me, "Sam, the DHV Magellan is not fucking working, lad. So you can't actually use it." It's like, oh, okay. Because legit, the amount of missions, I guess it was because I don't think it was even because of that, because they penalized you for it anyway. But like the amount, I'd say, like, I don't want to say ridiculous no more, but I feel like at least 50% of the missions are like prefaced by, "Yo, Sam, you can't use this fucker. Like, he's actually just is down, fella. Like, you can't." To the point where it's like, what is this? What is it doing? Like, what are you doing with this thing? It doesn't work.
It feels like the entire point of it was to just break up the game, like Niall said, and it just constantly require you to go back to it.
Roving cutscenes.
It was really. Yeah, but there's something I wanted to bring up because you mentioned it just a second. Oh, you didn't mention it, but it made me remember. One thing that they added to this game, which I thought was like superb, like actually fantastic, was the MP3 player that they added.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The ability to create your own playlists and find more music as the game goes on, I thought was incredible, and it really added to the whole like porter like experience. I had that thing on 24/7 when I was playing, and it got it because of it, and because I wasn't like forced to only listen to the songs during certain cutscenes or certain moments of the game. I really got to enjoy the entire soundtrack for Death Stranding 2. And I really appreciate being able to do that. Like, I got to hear every single song in that game multiple times over. And it really gave me just a really nice appreciation for all of the music that was made for the game or music that was chosen for the game. I really did appreciate that. And I think it was, although it seems like a very small feature, I think it was just a really good idea to add. And I don't know how that wasn't in the first game. Thinking back,
It was just
it
next.
was a very,
No, it was because you could do it. You could do it in the private rooms,
Yeah.
yeah,
but you couldn't do it out and
Yeah, yeah.
about. It was ridiculous.
But that
Yeah,
was a
no-
really good feature. Yeah.
Yeah, the soundtrack was incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
with the MP3 player, apart from one song, it was just Low Raw, which was the people who did Death Stranding 1.
Yeah.
But there is one Woodkid song which I've listened to on repeat since finishing it.
Yeah.
It was To the Wilder piano
I
version.
love To the Wilder. So
Yeah,
good.
the Ellie Fanning one is really good, but the piano one is the best, I think.
But I also didn't realize like how like locked in Kojima must have been on Woodkid, because one of the songs in the game is Woodkid. It's -61. It's what plays at the start of the game. He made that song like 8 years ago. So Kojima must have seen that shit like when he was making Death Stranding 1. I was like, I'm gonna use it because the
Yeah.
lyrics are like super, like they don't reference the game obviously, but the content of that song is very similar to the content of the game. Like Kojima must have clocked it and just been like, "You're mine." Like I'm
Yeah.
using you in like 5 years. You're gonna be in the game. It's gonna be a But yeah, very good feature.
He's got good taste in music, has Kojima, and,
Oh, he does.
he knows what matches the mood and stuff like that.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
one track that I do want to shout out is Troy Baker's version of BB's theme.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
fucking excellent. Really good. I've
Yeah,
listened to that quite
yeah.
a lot. Right, shall we get into some story?
Yes.
Right, massive, big old spoilers are coming. So if you don't want them, go away. Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about new characters, shall we? So we got Rainy, we got Tarman, and we got Tomorrow. And I think they were all very excellent additions, especially Tomorrow. I really.
Well,
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with you.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Okay, so preface this by I could not fucking find that book you two were talking about. I was searching, I was waiting. I'm like, are they fucking
He's skipping
like-
cutscenes again, Lewis. He's
No,
fucking skipping them.
seriously, I seriously did not skip a single cutscene in that entire game. I will say the only things I did skip was the fucking NPCs telling me about how to use stuff I already got a tutorial for. But outside of that, I didn't skip anything. I was every time Tom was on the screen, I was scanning the subtitles for the word book, and I just couldn't find it at any point.
Right. So it was when you was in your when you're in your quarters, and when it was just over the radio, basically saying I've left you a book. So that might have been one of the times you were skipping it.
Maybe, yeah, because fucking Tarman, he waffled sometimes.
It was just on the back of it was just on the headboard of Sam's bed.
It was Moby Dick.
Yeah.
It was Moby Dick. But you don't actually read the book. It was like I think it was a picture of him and his son, and it shows how he's lost his son and how he lost his hand.
Yeah.
It's a really good cutscene.
Yeah. Right.
No, I imagine it is, but so the characters in particular are one of the things which I was very, very disappointed by. Tomorrow for completely other reasons, but for Rainy and Tarman in particular, and
Dollman.
Oh, Dollman. Of course.
yeah, I thought Dollman was fine. But honestly, pretty much so right. Okay, so in Death Stranding 1, what you got was a character who had gone through some traumatic shit and was, because of that, was doing something actively themselves. So Heartman lost his family, so was searching for the beach, like fucking destroying his heart, and that was his character, that was his utility, his knowledge for the beach. Deadman didn't have a beach, so he was interested in the beach and stuff like that. Fragile was betrayed by Higgs, so wanted to get her own revenge.
I can't wait to clap back here. I can't wait. Go on, keep going.
It depends what he does.
Yeah, and Mama, Mama died, and it was about like sort of coming to that realization, and then through the mechanisms of the different Cupids and Mama and Lockney, it was bringing them together and sort of fixing their bond, that sort of thing. And but what I'm saying with like those four examples was that Sam was integral in, first of all, like uncovering that and helping them with that in some way, to more or less extents. Like Mama in particular, like he was very important with that. Fragile, obviously, incredibly important with that, and you felt like you were uncovering that story and learning more about him, and from that you built the connection with them.
Right.
With Rainy, for example, I thought Rainy was handled incredibly poorly. You got a cutscene which explained a backstory to them, which is completely justified what happened to her. Awful that it did, but then it's like Fragile's like, you know what, I'm gonna adopt you because I could use you as a tool, so I'm gonna do that, and that's it. And then she has a baby at the end, and so that's one. With Tarman, I didn't get any story of him. I did think he was cool because he's a cool guy. I thought it's really fucking weird that Kojima is essentially creating a digital freezer where he can use celebrities' bodies but not actually get their actions. I think people are fucking glossing over that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it makes me feel ill thinking about it. And yeah, tomorrow, I think that tomorrow is where I'm a bit. In fact, we'll go back tomorrow with Fragile. It's sort of justified how she is, but remember when I said in chat like probably like a month ago, that I was losing my mind that everyone was being so fucking weird with but speaking to Sam. First of all, it's because he had an empty BB unit, but also Fragile was fucking dead. So that explains that. But it's like because you're left in the dark with that, you're just like, why as this character? Just like it feels like I'm just seeing shells of people who I used to know, and like they don't have any substance to them anymore. And it felt really weird. It felt everyone was treating Sam like a baby, and like everyone was talking around him. And then tomorrow I'm back and forth on because first of all I hated the conclusion, but then I realized that the story wasn't about what I wanted it to be about, and so then I felt a bit differently towards that. We can get to the overall plot later. So I honestly I just with every cutscene I was just getting angrier and angrier. I'm like, this is nothingness. These cutscenes are nothingness with nothing characters.
Right.
That's what I felt.
Right. So I'm not going to clap that quite as hard because that was a very well argued case, and I do agree with you to a point where yes, Sam is not important in these characters' lives at all.
Yeah.
But I do not. But I believe they all have motivations. There's all very good motivations. Like Rainy, for example, like I said, she was booted out of her community while pregnant for something she cannot control.
Yeah.
And Tarman, it's a shame that you didn't get his backstory because he has got his backstory. He has got a reason for what he's doing and how he has his abilities and all that stuff. It is a shame that it's not hidden.
Know why it was,
but it should have just been a cutscene as you were introduced to him.
Imagine you had to go get that book and you had to go get that picture.
Well, yeah, they very easily cut off. Like, I don't know
like in like a mission, like, oh, could you help me out because I'm fucking doing everything here and Fragile's doing nothing. But anyway, carry on.
But tomorrow herself, I don't know if it was just because Ellie Fanning just played it really well, but I think
played it tremendously.
She was a joy to see in cutscenes. You know what I mean? Because it was a character unlike anything we've seen before, and when she was actually put into action, because we've never really seen anyone with like proper like superpowers like that. You know what I mean? She was just incredibly cool. You know what I mean? Just to watch, it was it was a Kojima ass character. You know what I mean? Like really, really, really good. Go on, Lewis, sorry.
No, I got too much to say other than like Niall did make very good points. Like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with all of them, but my argument, I guess, for it is that they might have felt empty, like a Rainy, for example, or Tarman and stuff. But to me, or at least the way I perceived it, is they were already established and they'd been working with Fragile for a decent amount of time, and mainly they were on their own grind. Sam wasn't there necessarily to help. That he was there to help the team as a whole, but he didn't make those individual connections with those characters enough for me to be like, they're relying on Sam to fix this problem for them. They never really asked for Sam's help in regards to any of that stuff. Like, Rainy had her own shit going on. She was coming to terms with that herself. And then obviously she was dealing with the baby thing, but the dealing with the baby thing was just a byproduct of them all stopping what was happening. It wasn't necessarily up to Sam. It wasn't Sam's mission. He was just part of a bigger thing. So I didn't necessarily have an issue with the fact that he wasn't more involved with these characters' lives or more involved with their issues, because he wasn't really there to be. It was just more of a team thing, and he happened to also be there. I do agree with you, obviously, that early on, especially, I wasn't frustrated, but I definitely was confused at why everyone was communicating with Sam the way they were, because it just felt very.
Did you like try to throw me off the scent then? Because you replied to me when I messaged in Discord saying, "What are you talking about? I haven't noticed anything."
No, because this was early on when I said that. I was still early on in the game. It's just I was a bit further ahead than you, and I'd come to my own conclusions about Fragile, where I was like, I understand why she's reacting like this, because she's dealing with so much guilt from what happened to Lou, that she's just to try and reconcile for that. She's just sort of taken on this persona of being a leader and being like all authoritative and just trying to take her focus off of what happened and try and like lead the team forward and stuff. So when I said that to you, I genuinely just come to terms myself that it was for this reason. When the game actually presents why everyone was being weird, it was very relieving to me.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the way that was handled, and it was genuinely a big sigh of relief on my end. Because it sort of made everything make sense. I still think some characters in general, like I've already said this, I think Hartman in this game was just way worse than in the first game. He was not the character that I fell in love with in the first game. I felt like a lot of that was just sort of taken away from me. And Deadman's involvement in the game isn't necessarily bad, but again, it's just a very different. It's a different character. It's a different experience with that whole sort of thing. All of the new characters that they added, Dolman especially, was a very surprise hit for me. I think Dolman was, and especially with how much was included in the story. I wasn't expecting him to be so.
It was just nice to have someone on the journey with you.
Yeah,
You're not just listening to Sam talk to himself. Someone's actually conversing with you.
One character.
Sorry, go on.
Which I want to talk about, because I think it's the only character which this is the case, and Kojima admitted it as well, where he just wanted another Mads again. He wanted another Cliff, and that was Neil.
Neil Varney.
I, up until probably like yesterday, I was a Neil hater. I was,
Really?
yeah. Well, I just thought that his story again was a bit of nothing really, because I thought comparing it to the first game, like it's this connection between Cliff and Sam because he's his dad, and like that's the connection, and that's what like keeps pulling them together. But I just didn't get the Neil stuff. I'm like, why the fuck is this guy who slept with Sam's wife, like why did they keep getting pulled together? And then I don't think it's as good as the first game, but I think the answer is that he was just trying to, it was like keeping his last promise to Lucy in that, like making
Who
sure
was a
that
bitch, by the way.
Yeah, no,
She's
legit.
the fucking worst.
Like keeping Lou safe, and like ended up giving him the necklace at the end, which was like the key part to it all. But yeah, I still didn't like him as much, and also just keep the bandana on. You know, like,
you don't have to put it on every time.
That's
Kojima as fuck. That like
every single time I watched Neil slowly walk up to the camera, and then he put the bandana on, and then the skulls flashed across all the faces. It was every single time it hit. It was the best. I loved it.
It was just too similar to the Mad shit. It was when he would light the cigarette kind of thing. It was just
it was similar to the Mad. It was similar to the Mad shit. That, I mean, a lot of it felt similar, especially due to the fact that it was all set in a hospital as well. During the real life cutscenes and stuff, it did feel like a heavy retread on the Cliff stuff. It was done very weirdly, but at the same time, obviously given context, it makes sense. That's where they'd be that's the facility they'd be. It makes sense why it's in the same place. It just felt very similar in a lot of regards. I do agree, but I really liked Neil. I like the idea of a man just too angry to die, like so angry that he just can't die, and he needs to fulfill his promise. I like that. It's good. It's a good motivation. It makes me really enjoy the character, and the more cutscenes we got between Lucy and Neil, I just really did start feeling bad for Neil, and I really appreciated his character. Lucy, not so much. There wasn't really ever a point where I ever was like, oh yeah, I get what you're going through now.
Just fucking pack it in. Like, number one, don't sleep with your therapy clients. What the fuck's that about? And also, poor Sam.
That as well. Yeah, she was on a streak with that. It's the fact that she slept with multiple. It was there was no point in the story where it overly felt bad for Lucy. It sort of felt like it was coming to. Obviously, no one deserves to have the baby stolen from them, but
Neil did give us the best looking level of a game of all time with the fireworks.
Oh god, that was so
yeah,
good.
gorgeous.
Literally, like that blew me away.
No, yeah, it
More so than anything else in the game. Even when you're on the beach with the, I mean, to be fair, I said in the chat I was waiting for that Hartman moment. Like
It was good.
when I saw it in the trailer, I'm like, that's what I'm playing the game for, and it happened right at the end. But it
Yeah.
was incredible. But that fireworks stuff was really good.
No, yeah, absolutely gorgeous game. Just in general, the graphics on the game were outstanding, just absolutely ridiculous. Like that Decima engine's just nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well,
no, I know we need to like cut it short, kind of. But I just want to say the overall, I think all the characters that were added were good. There was no characters that were added. The only characters I didn't really care for was Hartman's girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
He was just
the one in the hole. Yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it
Microbiome.
just like completely undermined his whole
his whole
singular
thing,
purpose
his
in
whole-
life
one
is to
goal,
find
yeah.
his family so he can die with them. That's what he wanted to do.
It seems a bit weird because he's still kind of focused on it, but he also has enough time to be like, yeah, I'll get a girlfriend now as well. But
Yeah.
on the side, why
But
not?
I want to talk about the actual story.
Yes,
'Cause
yeah.
I feel like I'm not super. I love Death Stranding 1 story. I thought it was one of the best stories ever told, honestly. And Death Stranding 2, for obvious reasons, I hated it for a long time. Because so first of all, there was immediately a massive disconnect between me as a player and Sam. Because in the first game, every single decision he made was every single decision I would have made without hesitation. We completely aligned on that. But then he did something that was completely unthinkable, and he left Lou with Fragile, who he hasn't seen since he fucked off. And Fragile, like, you know, they were connected, obviously, but you know, why do that? And from that point, I was like, right, this is fucking stupid. And then Lou died, which I was like, right, what was the point of the first game?
Yeah.
What was the actual point of the first game if you're just gonna take what I was stressed about with Death Stranding 2 was they're going to use Lou to create tension. That's what I thought was going to happen. It's going to be the case of you're having to do stuff, but Lou's constantly going to be in danger. And I'm like, my heart can't take that, but my heart definitely couldn't take just fucking killing Lou. And so I was just like completely numb at that point, and I was like, what's the point? Because I don't think anybody played Death Stranding 1 because they're like, oh yeah, let's link up America. I love that shit. I want to make America better. I want to make America great again. You know, I don't want to do that. They wanted to go on this journey with Lou with the hope that you get breadcrumbs like, oh, maybe BBs can live out the pod, because you're getting explicitly told that BBs cannot live out the pod. So you're like, oh, maybe they will. And I was like, well, what's the point in doing this? And so I mean, I suppose that aligned me a bit with Sam, who was just doing it because he needed something to do.
Yeah.
And I was going through that, and then just honestly, like, I didn't care about the story at all until right at the end, where there was a chance of getting Lou back. And then when it turned out that you're not getting Lou, you're getting Tomorrow, which is Lou, I was like beyond devastated. Like, I was so fucking disappointed. But then I realized that I suppose the message was, I'm hoping this is what the message, that's what I took away from it, is the second worst thing to lose in a child is not seeing that child grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I got from it. Yeah.
So I was less annoyed about the story because there was a quote at the end saying like the journey isn't like, even if the journey is not what you expect, it's still worth going on, or something like that. And I kind of see that, like, it was right up until a couple of days ago where I made this realization. I was saying that Death Stranding 2 was my Westworld season 2. I was like, you shouldn't. Yeah, I was like, if you enjoyed the first one, you should not play the second one. I hated it that much. But then I was like, even though it isn't the story I wanted, I think it's still a story worth telling. Like, there is a point to it. I genuinely thought he was smoking some shit and it was pointless. I thought I was angry. And that's the thing. I never even got in the past, really in the past, like people being like proper fucking mad at like the Star Wars prequels or something like that. I was like, why? Just like, don't, you know, if it's not good, that's fine. Just don't bother. But like, I felt like I kind of deserve. If he was going to give me a sequel, I deserved the sequel I wanted, which I suppose isn't the case. But that's how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think you should ever expect anything like that from Kojima. Though.
No.
Based on his past experiences with all the stuff he's made,
I'd
he
never
always-
played any of the games of
he
his.
I mean, never about. Well, yeah, I've only played like one, and like as far as I know, from what everyone says, every single game of his always goes like so far against what you think's going to happen.
Yeah.
That you should just never go into any like all the Metal Gear games. You should never go into any of them, especially like consecutively, expecting it to either explain or continue what happened in the first game, or try and explain what's happening in the next game you play. Like it will just do the most batshit insane stuff. But that's what people like about Kojima's writing. They like that it's just balls to the wall, just insane.
He's not writing it with any consideration for the audience at all.
No,
He's not. He's
no.
writing it because he wants to write it. And there's not one point when he's writing that
Which I
story where he
respect.
thinks, "Will people like this?" He doesn't give a fuck at
No,
all.
I respect that a ton though, because there is no one else doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Because everyone's too scared because they want to make something, which I understand. You need to make something, especially as a company. You need to make something that sells.
Yeah.
You need to make something that people are going to buy. Otherwise, your company dies and then you're done. So I get it, but it's nice that we have someone in the industry who can just be an idiot and just make what they want to make.
And he's trusted enough to do it.
Yeah.
He should make a JRPG where you don't fight God at the end. That's what he should do.
Honestly,
That'll
yeah,
really
it'd be a
subvert
first of its time.
expectations.
Yeah, I've noticed the time, and I know we're gonna have to cut it short soon. So I guess we're gonna start wrapping it up. But I just want to give credit as well, to Troy Baker's performance as Higgs in this game. You know, Higgs in this game, I didn't think he could top what he did in the first game. It was absolutely ridiculous what they did with Higgs in this game. Like, he was Higgs. Like Troy Baker, like Higgs is his character. Like, and he got it so right, and he acts it so fucking well. He's just his performance in this game was genuinely incredible. I think it was my favorite performance in the game.
Yeah.
Do you want to know something? It wouldn't have taken almost any effort to just give him like some sort of foundation and reality a tiny bit. Because that's the thing, like. Well, like literally, because he's a bastard. Because he's a bastard, which is fine. Like villains can be that, but like we got a little fucking morsel of something when he was sat on top of the servers on the beach.
Yeah,
when he was saying about how long he's been there,
he gave us
and like, but that's the thing. Like, it could have been something which was like, oh, this is what's driven him to be even fucking more insane. But you can't. It wasn't. You were never surprised by what Higgs did. Like, so it wasn't that didn't land because you were never surprised. It was like, yeah, Higgs in the first game, if he had these extra height and powers, he could have done.
I wasn't surprised. I was fucking disgusted at certain points.
When he did what?
When he was burning Sam
when he burned Sam alive over and over again.
I hated that. That was like true. Like, I knew he was a shithead, but that was like so far beyond what I thought he would do that it made me feel ill. Like, I hated it. It was horrible.
I thought it was like completely logical. Like for him, he was just like, right, I know I can't kill Sam. He says it every time. It's like, can't kill you. You're a patriot. So like, he wants to make him suffer. I think the worst thing he did by fucking far was send those pictures of Lou on the way back to the base.
That was fucking grim.
That was bad. But like, even if he got like just like a tiny, it doesn't even have to be in depth. Just a little bit of a backstory, just a tiny bit. Not to justify what he did, but just to like give him a bit of a character.
No, that's the thing. I didn't need that at all. I was perfectly happy with him just being an arsehole because he doesn't like Sam, and that's his entire motivation. That's it. And he's based on not even that big of an encounter, because they did encounter each other in the first game, and Sam did technically ruin his plans, even if his plans in the first game were dumb anyway. But he did technically ruin them. But I love that those small interactions just caused him to eternally hate Sam, to the point where it's just like, I'm going to ruin your life just forever. Like, it's just, that's it. And I love that. Because we do not get villains like that anymore. It doesn't happen.
I'm not someone who idolizes like the Dark Knight or anything like that. But it's the Joker thing. You know what I mean? Like they say in the movie, it's just some people just want to see the world burn, and that is why the Joker is still revered as like the best. Still the best Joker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they just did it so well. It's just a guy who just wants to do it.
But
you know what I mean? That's perfect.
Good as well, because I think, especially in the modern day, I think in a lot of media, stories try and humanize the villains way
Yeah.
too much. They try to give them any sort of reason for the audience to go, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay that you did all these bad things." Or at the end, they try and do the whole 180, and it's like the villain's actually good, and he's gonna help us save the world instead. I like just having a villain who starts a villain, he ends a villain, and even when he dies, he still just has no remorse, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, fuck it in a bit, bye,"
Yeah.
and it just dies. Like, I like that. It was good. I was very happy with that.
Speaking of villains, there were two in this one, like in the first one, where there was someone behind pulling the strings,
Oh,
which is APAS.
But I thought
the
Higgs
Uh,
was APAS in the end.
No, Higgs was
no,
working
no.
with APAS.
Yeah,
Like
well, yeah.
APAS is the
They
reason.
helped him. Yeah, they
Yeah,
helped him.
APAS was the reason why Higgs killed Lou. Like that
Oh
was
right, yeah, the servers, yeah.
A-Pass
yeah.
what basically helped gave him the materials and stuff to make all these weapons and stuff like
Yeah, yeah. So they were like the whole point was that they were trying to create a society where you wouldn't have to leave, like wouldn't have to travel anymore. And
Yeah.
so like every instruction was through APAS was to do that. So that was the whole point. And to do that, they needed to get Sam out the house,
Yeah.
which is why they killed Lou. Because then if Lou's dead, then he's got nothing else to lose, and he can do that. What were people's thoughts on the president who looked totally not evil being evil?
Yeah, to be fair, you bringing this up, I'll keep it short. I completely forgot about that, and I did think that
Yeah.
whole 10-minute segment, obviously disregard Die
Die
Hard.
Hard Man.
Really
Yeah.
But
He
that
was fucking
whole
sick though.
that
Like
whole
I didn't like Die Hard Man in the first one, but in the second one, it was great.
I said to Oliver, he gave me the most like Mr. Milchick energy I've
Yeah,
ever
without a
seen.
doubt.
Yeah,
Like Kojima's watched Severance without a
No,
fucking
he
doubt. There
has
is no
not.
way he has not watched it.
No, I thought that whole president reveal was just really bizarre and really odd and didn't add much to the story because it didn't even go anywhere. He revealed that it was this big mother brain computer thing, and then
Yeah.
Sam just sort of went, sorry, Die Hardman went, no. And then he went, ah, damn it. And then that was it.
Yeah, no. To answer your question, the APAS, all the APAS stuff, worst part about the game, like worst part about the story. I didn't care about it at all, and
It was
like,
weird.
I just think like it might at least I don't know if it's actually the case on my headcanon. Higgs was the controlling force the entire time anyway.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Higgs was the only thing that mattered to me in that scenario. Like until now, I mentioned it, then I forgot.
Yeah, legit.
About the,
yeah,
I remember the president, but I forgot about the APAS shit completely.
Yeah.
The president was a non-character for me. It wasn't played well. None of his lines hit at all. I just didn't fucking care. But Die Hardman, though, that guy. Yeah, I think we all guessed early on because we obviously we all picked the other voices. Did you not guess it was Die Hardman? Because you pick all you try all the other voices, and the only one that works for him is Die Hardman. At the time I thought, for fuck's sake, they're gonna bring him back. I don't care about Die Hardman. He was the worst character in the first game, but fuck me, did they change his character for the better?
Legit. Yeah, no, it was absolutely incredible. Like I thought in the first game, it was probably one of the most overacted parts of the game, but in this one, it felt like they kind of brought the character up to that overacting. I don't think the actor necessarily changed what they were doing. They just made the character and the representation, the lines better around that. I thought just one more thing on APAS. I thought that, I thought one thing it would. I kind of guessed that's what was going to happen. With the APAS stuff, like they were just since they said that they're an AI thing that was like finding the best course of action. I'm like, oh, those are they're the reasons why Lou's dead. I was hoping that it would progress to a point where I could forgive Fragile, because I mean she did save Lou in a way, but also like, and she was technically being controlled by APAS. It's stuff that you can't really comprehend, like an AI pulling the strings. But like, I just felt like Fragile was such a good character in the first game, and in the second game, just as irredeemable damage done to that character. I cannot forgive her at all.
She's very much I couldn't forgive her either. They just kind of make her unlikable as a character. No matter the thing is, you're playing the game for 30 hours, you know what I mean? You can't spend 29 hours like questioning the person's decisions, and it's all changed at the end. It's just like, well, it's not changing how I feel about her.
That's one issue I have with the game, which I completely forgot about. I wish that it allowed me to do anything. It did not allow me to have hope. and it did not allow me to mourn. It
Yeah.
didn't. It didn't allow me to mourn Lou because of the universe that it's in. So it would have been great for it to be a story about going through, the stages of grief. But I was just stuck in denial the whole time.
Yeah. No, it didn't
Yeah.
go through any stages of grief.
Yeah. So I was
One
just.
stage of grief.
Yeah, exactly. It was denial and disappointment. I was just stuck on in this like sort of limbo the whole game, which again led me to feel numb about it all. To clarify, the reason why I gave it a high rating is sort of similar to it's not in even on the same ballpark, but it's just kind of how much I dislike the story, which is why it's on the same level. But I rated it the same as the Final Fantasy remake and Rebirth, is because it's undeniably an incredibly high quality experience. But unlike Final Fantasy, I will remember the story forever. I have no idea what happened in Final Fantasy. It's all fucking nonsense.
It's anime nonsense.
Yeah. But yeah, was there anything else on? I feel like there was something else, but I can't remember.
I've gone through all my notes. I'll just give an honourable mention once. I know it's been mentioned multiple times, but the Die Hardman scene on the beach was possibly one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And sorry, that entire sequence on the beach with the robot, with the ship being on the head of a BT, that fight, the guitar
and you're on the
battle,
fucking beach.
the guitar
the
battle
whole
with
final
Higgs,
boss fight.
being eaten by a giant baby. It's just
Yeah.
no one else could do it but Kojima. No one.
Yeah, the final boss fight in that game was one of the most fun final bosses I've ever done in a video game. I think.
I thought it was a bit long. I thought it was a bit sluggish.
It was repetitive. I wish there was more animations for the guitar.
Yeah, I wish there was more animations. I wish I know it's to like simulate like you've been fighting this guy for like 30 hours, so like you're gonna be really sluggish. But it felt like fuck me, just punch him. I'm holding RT and it's like a fucking 5-second wind up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the ending in terms of the way it was presented was really good. I like Deadman as well. Honestly, like probably one of the biggest emotional beats of that game was when Sam got to hug Deadman as Heartman, because like Deadman was like the hero secondary character in the first game for me. Like that journey that he went on, because he went on from completely seeing BB as a tool to like seeing him as like a kid, and like he was the reason why Sam got to, essentially birth Lou. So
and he got a beach.
Yeah,
the guy got a beach.
He got
what he
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
It was really, yeah. So yeah. So I get just to recap. I gave it a 9. Lewis, you gave it a 9, didn't you? And
I gave it a 7.
Gave it a 7. Well, thank you for watching. We shall see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.